We begin tonight with a response from one of the districts that received a C rating from the Texas Education Agency.
The grade is part of the agency's new rating system that is upsetting many education advocates tonight. Our Michelle Pedraza is here in tonight's top story with what educators at CCISD are saying about their less than perfect grade. Michelle.
Well, Brian McKenzie, the TEA released accountability ratings to over 1,000 school districts across the state today. They're based on an A through F scale. It reflects three things: how students perform on standardized tests, how they improved on the tests, and performance among student groups in different racial and socioeconomic backgrounds. CCISD is one of those districts here in the Coastal Bend who received a C. They released a statement tonight. With this new accountability system, our district remains focused on progress. The district earned a 78. However, individually, 10 CCISD schools earned a 90 or above, and 21 campuses earned an 80 or above. District Superintendent Roland Hernandez says, while we will use TEA's information to help us improve, we will not let it define us. I spoke to the local American Federation of Teachers about the system, who say they do not believe the system should be based off a test, and argue that state officials are putting several important metrics into a single simplified letter grade.
It's an oversimplification because they don't take into consideration the needs of the child. They wrongly penalize the poverty-stricken, the disenfranchised, and marginalized children and schools. And it's not a good measure.
And here is a look at other results across South Texas. Flower Bluff, Bishop, and Port Aransas ISDs received A's. Corpus Christi and Robstown ISDs received C's. Kingsville ISD got an F. I asked Dr. Vetta her thoughts on KISD's score. Here's what she had to say.
Kingsville may have gotten an F, but I know good and well that there are teachers and administrators there and parents who are working hard to lift their students up. And this stigma that they've placed on Kingsville is unwarranted, and it's just shameful.
In Jim Wells County, schools received 2 B's, a C, and a D, their highest district being Fremont with an overall grade of 85. However, back in 2012, that district was suffering academically after failing to meet standards 4 years in a row. But tonight, after years of hard work, the county is recognizing those who made it happen with a statement released today saying congratulations. And since last year, more than 50 school districts are organizing to create their own community-based accountability systems. The ratings assigned today can be appealed by districts, charters, and campuses. The TEA will release the final 2018 ratings based on those outcomes in December.
Thank you very much, Michelle.